So I'm going to make this video to do a little bit of a tutorial and a walkthrough on the caulking and sealing process on this building so that you can have a little bit of an understanding as to why we fill certain checks, why we don't fill other ones, that sort of thing. There's a lot of detail in the caulking that is taking a lot of years to master. Caulking on log homes has always been kind of a controversial thing among log home restoration companies because some people swear that you need to seal every single check to prevent rot and to prevent water infiltration, while other companies swear that any check filling at all causes log rot because it traps moisture in behind the caulk and then holds it in these checks and causes them to rot out. When in actuality, it all depends on what you seal and what you leave. What we leave is almost as important on checks as what we fill, because if we were to fill every single check on this house, we would have rotten logs within a decade everywhere because we need weep holes. If you've ever installed windows, you understand the necessity of weep holes. That's what lets the moisture out of the windows when they get in. So we fill 9 o'clock and up on all of the logs, and that's from here up. Anything that's going to be holding water, anything big enough, so it's 1/4 of an inch or larger, leading into any corners, windows, doors, or openings, and anything the same size as 9 o'clock and up on the logs. So you'll notice there's checks, parts of checks that are not filled, and that is the reason behind it, is that if any moisture does get in there, these are necessary to continue to let the moisture out. So we have checks filled everywhere. Once the stain gets done, these checks will blend in with the stain that we're using. As you can see, this one, it's filled where it's 9 o'clock and up and it's going into a corner. Here, it's shedding moisture out because it's below the 9 o'clock line. So any water that gets in there will run out and dry out. So this check being open is actually necessary to continue to let that wood dry every time it sees moisture. We seal it where it goes into the corner and in the window because that keeps bugs out around the window buck and keeps moisture out of the window. Same thing goes for the windows. We have replaced thousands of lineal feet of rotten logs, and the main culprit for rotting logs is window trim and window seals getting caulked in a way that holds that moisture in. So you'll notice that we seal the sides, we seal across this top. This actually plugs the weep holes that are on the window to do that line, but we do not fill these underside lines. We do that on purpose so that if any moisture ever does get into these little tiny micro cracks around the window and get in behind this, they have an exit point so that it will not rot this log. And then we go up the sides of the windows. Again, up top, we don't do this line where the window meets the trim. We do the one up top and we go around the top of the window and back down to it, leaving that line and that line so that water that does get in there, if it ever does, has an exit point. So you'll notice on every one of these windows that we have the top and the sides, the bottom sealed, but we do not seal underneath, and we do that on purpose. It's not negligence, it is science around the moisture. We have to let it dry out. So as I go around, you'll see checks filled everywhere that's 9 o'clock and up on all these walls. And then you'll also see checks like here that are on the downward side of the log. This one here is a good example because it pinches off into nothing before it hits the corner. So this is a good drain one that's not going to let bugs into your house. This one here, it might be 9 o'clock and up, but it's underneath of this cover. So this thing actually peters down to the lower side of the log. As it goes down, it's a good drain check. So we're going to leave that one. Same thing there, we're going to leave that one. So the ones that are not caulked for a reason. So we try to be as thorough as we can, and we catch any checks that are going to be a problem. That one's going into a corner, so we keep the bugs out, but we leave the end of it open for any moisture that might come off that corner and can run out. Checks filled everywhere until we get to that middle one. It's on the lower side of the log, and it peters out to nothing before it hits the corner, so we don't fill that. So we have just about gotten every wall on the house. Here's a good example of the window caulking. The top is sealed all the way across, and then it's sealed down to here. wrapped around the whole bottom. And then we leave that bottom side like a weep crack to let any moisture out. It does get in there. Every window, every door is sealed like this. We have maybe another day in caulking before we're masking. So we will be spraying next week. Here's another good example. The check is filled to where it goes to the inside. That keeps bugs from being able to get in through that check to the inside of the house. But we leave it here because it's the lower side of the log. Any moisture gets in can get out. That continues to keep the wood healthy and last a long time, like the 40 years it's already been here. Any questions? Give me a call.